So, diamond hands, looks like Fisker has finally made us some money today, huh? Ran up 20%? Doesn't smell like a turd anymore, does it? Well, I told you it was a good long-term play. Anyways, today Morgan Stanley got us a new price target and I have a freshly baked, juicy interview of Henrik Fisker and Goldman Sachs. Please enjoy.
One of my main goals was to come into the market with something that was a little different, unique. And first of all, the outline of the vehicle really is a SUV outline, and that's on purpose. I really didn't want to make it look like, a crossover hatchback that most of the other EVs in this segment is. And secondly, I wanted to create something timeless, something muscular. Unfortunately, because of COVID, most people haven't seen it in real life on the road. But when you see this vehicle on the road, you're going to be pretty amazed. It's got an incredible stance. It really looks powerful, agile. It looks like nothing else on the road.
Let me say this. I haven't seen the car in person. Although they are just an hour away from here, maybe I should go and take you with me. But the front does resemble a Rover. On the recent photos of Fisker Ocean, however, I've seen that this car is wider and feels more powerful and more grounded. So maybe when this thing is going to drive next to you on a freeway, it will have the same wow effect as a Cybertruck. Let's wait and see.
We haven't revealed the final interior yet. It's going to be a lot more advanced than what we showed in the show car. I'm really excited about it. There is specifically one feature that I think is mind-blowing, and it's sort of the connection between the user interface and what we do with the screen. It's also something we haven't seen in any production car before. So I'm excited to show that. We probably will show the screen and interior end of this year or later this year, but I don't think we're going to show the actual user interface until we launch the car, because it's so different from anything you've ever seen before.
Well, as I have said in the first video of Down on Fisker, I do love the front panel and the interior, but the fact that Henrik says that it's going to be even wilder.
I want to incorporate some really cool features that haven't been available in any vehicle before. And on the exterior, for instance, we got what we call the California mode, where you can roll down all the windows and push a one button. We are attempting to make one of the largest opening solar roofs as well, with incorporated solar cells that will give you extra mileage on the vehicle as well. And we're going to announce those a little later when we have optimized it. The solar roof, I see really as sort of the ultimate future energy source. Of course, we are not there yet, but where we can power, a vehicle to go, on your 25-mile trip every day. However, if you don't start with technology now, we're never going to, get there. So we are working very closely together with solar cell manufacturers to see how we can optimize solar for the future. One of the things we are seeing in our calculations, and with this latest solar technology, our target is to get well over 2,000 free miles a year on this solar panel. Hopefully a lot more. We're still sort of in the final calculations on this and deciding on a few areas. One of the very difficult things is actually to charge the battery with the solar cells, because you're going to need some unique technology to be able to get this energy back in to this very powerful lithium-ion battery. But our internal engineers are working on that, and I'm very sure that we're going to end up with something that is going to be very unique, and something that I think is just a real feel-good factor, quite frankly, knowing that even if you only get, maybe the trip down to the bakery for your breakfast Danish actually was done on solar power, not using anything else but solar power. I think that's super cool. And if we can keep improving that to eventually your daily commute is on solar power, I think it's going to be awesome.
One of the most prominent features the Fisker Ocean's promo materials have been focusing on is their California mode, which means you press one button and all of the windows in the car roll down. And to be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure what the big deal is and why they are that proud of this patented feature. I mean, it's kind of neat to have your rear window sliding down if you want to throw in your surfboard, but believe it or not, not everyone in California is a surfer, and especially in Europe where they are planning an expansion to, surfing is not much of a thing. So I would suggest toning down a little bit this whole surfer culture-centric approach to marketing if they want to appeal to the broader audience. But then again, I would like to give Henrik the benefit of the doubt. Maybe this car is absolutely spectacular in person, and indeed, driving down the highway with the quarter glass roll down does create an absolutely amazing, unique experience. The solar panels, however, are something to be excited about, because not only do they look cool, but now we have a confirmation that they are going to add extra mileage, something that people have been worried about because they thought the solar panels on Fisker Oceans are just a gimmick, powering something small like power windows. But extra mileage, mwah!
I'm not in a pursuit to spend billions of dollars trying to make a vehicle without a steering wheel that can drive itself. That maybe it'll come one day, but I don't think it's in the next 7 to 10 years. So the way we are looking at autonomous vehicles, we're looking at it as a feature set. And I put that sort of into 3 categories. The first category is safety. So it's all about making you feel safe, and you can choose, what you want to do and what function you want to make you feel safe. The second category is what is annoying for you when you're driving your vehicle. That happens as you drive. Whatever you do with your vehicle, there's always something annoying. Can we remove that annoyance? And I won't talk more about that because we've got some really cool features that we don't want to give away yet. And then the third part for me is the entertainment that you can create through the autonomous features. Meaning, if I can make the vehicle somewhat drive itself in stop and go traffic with adaptive cruise control, etc., maybe up to 25 miles an hour, I can allow certain entertainment that I wouldn't allow going 90 miles an hour or 75 miles an hour. Because reality is, if you have a small crash at 15 miles an hour in stop and go traffic, you'll not die. But if you have a traffic accident at 75 miles an hour, there's a good chance you will die. So, but it allows us maybe in certain conditions at lower speeds to create some new entertainment value. And right now, the team and myself are working on what I would call a mind-blowing user interface that is so different, that's never been seen before. And we're going to try and use some of that technology from our autonomous system to enhance this experience. And ultimately, what I believe we need to do in the future, and what we are working on at Fisker, is to try to get this emotional connection we had with the gasoline car. How are you transferring that emotional connection to an electric vehicle? Because reality is, in the past, the human mastered the machine. In the future, it kind of looks like the machine is going to master us, but I don't really want to give our customers that feel. I want to put the feeling back in our customers that they're mastering the machine on their conditions. And I want them to feel an emotional connection on certain commands that they do. And those commands used to be shifting gear. It's not anymore. It used to be that we heard, the engine rev when we stepped on the accelerator. I don't want to emulate that. I don't want to redo that in a fake way, but we got to come up with other ideas that could make it really exciting to drive a car in the future. And that's what we're doing at Fisker. And you're going to be surprised.
When Fisker first announced that they were going to have this incredible autonomous feature, there was a lot of doubt in the air. And I can definitely see it, because Tesla had been around for quite some time. They had been collecting data, analyzing it, and perfecting their algorithm. Henrik saying that, yeah, we'll just roll out this vehicle and it will rock the world. It's great that they're hyping us up, but I really hope they can deliver.
Normally in the car industry, you select technology about 3 or 4 years before you launch the vehicle, because you're going to integrate into the vehicle, which means when this technology comes out, sometimes it feels a little old. In our case, we're selecting the technology in the very last moment, meaning now. And that means we've been able to put some very, very new technology in this vehicle that we actually previously haven't even, announced. So for instance, when we showed the vehicle in January last year, we announced we're going to have up to about a 300-mile range. In the meantime, we just decided on some very latest cell technology together with our cell manufacturing partner that actually will give us an amazing performance in this vehicle. And we know that our top version will have over 350-mile range. And I think that's going to be class leading when you think pricing. I don't think there's going to be any other vehicle in sort of the $60,000 range, price range, that will have over 350-mile range next year. So that we're really pleased with. We also have been able to add some pretty interesting technology to the powertrain that's going to give it some tremendous performance. And it is a little bit a factor of that we move so fast that we're not working on old technology. Remember, most OEMs that launch a car this year or next year started working on this car maybe 4 years ago. And that's when they selected some of their technologies. We're selecting our technology this year, and the car is coming out next year. That is incredible, unusual. And that's why you're going to get some of the latest tech in our car when it launches. Eventually, we'll probably manufacture our own cars once we have learned it and we have taken a lot of knowledge in. Absolutely, why not? And you can take another maybe few $100 out of each car. But let's not be mistaken here. If a car out of the factory, if the cost of that is about $35,000, just to use an example, only a few $1,000s of that is the manufacturing cost. So it's not that much that, yeah, let's say you can take out $300-$400 or maybe $500, there's $32,000 left where you can take cost out. That's what we're focused on. That's number one. Number two, what we are focused on is to get a high quality car in the customer's hands. Not to say that, hey, sorry, we didn't do a great job, but hey, we manufactured it ourselves. I don't think that's an argument you can use with customers. And that's kind of why we from the beginning took this Apple Foxconn model where, Apple don't manufacture their own phones, they have somebody else do it. And that's sort of the model we have taken in this phase where we are launching our first product. Are we later going to manufacture ourselves or with a different joint venture partner? I don't know. We have plenty of time to decide that. But what this does is it guarantees us that we're going to get a high quality car out of the gate on time. And let's remember, so far, there is no EV company on this planet that has launched their first EV on time. And at this point, we are still on time to launch in Q4 next year.
Well, first of all, I absolutely love the transparency here. I think Henrik and the Fisker brand in general need to be a lot more upfront about it and bring it up more often. Because as I follow very closely the social media about the stock markets, as I try to figure out the greed fear level for my investing and trading strategies, I see that a lot of retail investors don't fully understand what it takes to bring a car into production. So guys, if he is able to deliver the car on the set date, it's very impressive already.
So my aim is to come out with as many models as possible, as fast as possible. And to do that, I believe that we need some partnerships where you can partner up on certain components which really don't matter. And it, by the way, already happens in the car industry. Nobody has unique IP, or at least very few has unique IP, let's say on a windshield wiper. So everybody shares a lot of the same windshield wipers. A lot of companies shares, the same spark plugs, whatever it might be in a gasoline car. So that's already happened. We have just taken that a little further, where we are sharing some very expensive components like large aluminum stampings on the platform, et cetera, seating frames, and a few other things that we don't really think is relevant for our brand to own as an IP. But what it does for us is it takes years of development out, testing, certification, and it allows us to, from the get-go, get much lower pricing because we have volume of those parts. Now, in the first platform, we went in and we started on a platform that Magna developed, but in the end of the day, it is going to be a Fisker platform. We have our own in-house crash engineering team, which does crash simulations, develop the crash structures, because we want a super high, over 5-star, as whatever the top rating is in 2023. We want that in our vehicle. And just so everybody understand, if you have a 5-star rating in 23, it's higher rating than 5-star today, because there keeps coming in new rules and regulations that you have to fulfill. So that we're doing in-house. But what's important here is that in the future, we are looking to collaborate from the beginning, developing a new platform. So we have input and the other partner have input, and that way we can together decide on some of these common part, get higher volume. And I think that's the key to success in the EV space, because everybody's looking for volume, and the only way we can get pricing down is volume. Now, Fisker, with our first car, we already have volume. So, investors don't have to look at Fisker and say, oh, we got to wait 3 to 4 to 5 years until they have scale. And now finally they make money. We have scale from the beginning. The first, cars we send off the line, we have the low pricing from our suppliers. Some of the bigger milestones that we had to kind of get done here in Q1 was to sign off some of our bigger suppliers, which we have. We have already engaged with what we call the long lead suppliers. It could be body stampings, it could be all kind of different things. The cell manufacturer, we're already working with them, as I mentioned earlier. We're not going to announce yet who they are, because we don't need all our competitors to run over to them to ask for these great cells as well. We want to make sure we have our capacity, we have our advantage. So those were the important part. The second part is having kicked off the build of the first prototypes, the production intent prototypes that we'll be showing later this year. As you know, the LA Auto Show has been canceled here in May, which were the original plan. So I expect, depending on COVID, as we talked about earlier, hopefully we'll get over this pandemic and move on and can get some gatherings, because the whole idea is to show people this kind of real life. So I don't want to do another digital unveiling. So I suspect that it'll be sometime in Q3 that we will show this, our prototypes, and maybe even get some journalists in and do some driving late in the year as well, I could imagine. And so we are pretty much on scale with that. We haven't decided yet, where we're going to do it and how we're going to do it. It depends a little bit on COVID. And then finally, we're building up our marketing and sales team, something that I didn't want to do too early and spend a lot of money on, because we're obviously not selling yet, although we are taking reservations. So we're building up that. We're bringing in digital marketing people, strategic marketing people, etc., to really lay out a great marketing plan.
Please pay attention to what he said there. He would love to pump out as many models as fast as possible and have many partnerships. And that is excellent news for us investors, because that means multiple catalysts and a possible explosive expansion of the brand. Damn, that's a lot of And finally, the online presentations. I absolutely agree here. They are very dry and non-inspiring, and in the times when you cannot really gather a large group of people in one place and show them the car in person, you need to think outside of the box. But getting journalists behind the wheel, oh Henrik, I really hope that your extraordinary team of marketers will figure out something out of this century. Because although this is your design, it's brilliant and times-defying, dear Henrik, please remember that at the end of the day, what you need to show is not the car itself. You need to show people experiencing the car. You need to show people's emotions and how they react to it. And thus, please consider doing something mind-blowing, like not getting a journalist who works for a magazine or some publication, but instead getting someone like David Dobrik and introduce your beautiful, brilliant car to his huge audience through his eyes and his experience. I promise you, you will not regret it. Also, he gives a little reminder here, and that is, please remember that the May show is cancelled. So please remove it from your catalyst schedule and trade accordingly.
So, first of all, we don't want to use all our gunpowder, already, because we are not, really sending this vehicle out to customers until Q4 next year. So I think we have to be a little careful how we go about it. Secondly, we also don't want to give all the details of the vehicle away too early. So when we really start seeing details coming out on this vehicle and a bigger marketing effort will be third quarter this year sometime. Secondly, as I've mentioned, we are really ramping up and building up our marketing team. Secondly, we're launching in Europe and US at the same time, which is quite unusual for a car company, but that's what we're doing. And then third, we will be starting in end of this year to take reservations in China. So far, we have not done that, and that's really just for reasons of you have to set up a Chinese entity, which we're setting up right now, and you have to be able to take payments and a whole bunch of complicated things. So we've kind of waited a little bit with that, but we do have a clear China strategy, something we have not talked too much about.
Well, fam, you heard him, and I really hope you're taking notes. Q3 and Q4, that's when things are going to get sizzling hot. I mean, the US and Europe and detailed strategy for China, that's sexy.
We also have some questions coming from the audience about how you plan to introduce the different trim levels. Right, there's some higher end models. There's a base version.
Well, first of all, I don't want to call our Ocean, even the intro level price, the base version. Nobody wants to drive a base version, so I've tasked the team to come up with a different name because even the base version of the Ocean, which we don't want to call base, is actually well equipped and I think it's going to have really nice performance. But obviously, it's $37,500, and you can't put every single thing in a $37,500 car. It's just not possible cost-wise. But we also want customers to have the choice, for those who have the means, to be able to order some other exciting things in the vehicle. So we are planning to make it very simple. We're going to have four variants. We're going to have the $37,500, and then we're going to have with three other variants up to $69,000. So it'll be one probably around $49,000, and one around $59,000, and one at $69,000. So it's sort of a pretty good walk every $10,000. And we'll put a lot of different and interesting things into these vehicles that will separate them from each other. And those things we will lay out, I suspect, sometime in Q3 this year when we show the production vehicles and kind of get more into details about what is actually in each of these packages.
Typically, auto companies begin by selling the higher priced versions to begin with, and then work from there. Is that how we should think about the Fisker plan as well?
No, we have decided that we will actually deliver some of the $37,500 vehicles from the get-go. I think we want to differentiate ourselves a little bit there from some of our competitors. They seem to be all doing that. Of course, we would be happiest to sell most of the fully loaded ones because we make more money on that. And probably we are expecting that this will be the highest demand in the beginning, but we will ship some of the $37,500 vehicles as well.
I love what he said there about the base model. I am a brand strategist in charge of marketing at a tech company, and I have been preaching this for ages. If you really want to position your brand properly from the start, you need to be thoughtful even of the names that you give to your products. But it's still pretty funny to hear him addressing this issue during the interview. Speaking of the prices, it is very interesting that they have decided to start with this basic model. Sorry, Henrik. Especially if you take into account that he is known for designing products for the wealthy. But I guess having a manufacturing partner does allow you to have this as a viable option.
Yeah, we look at launching at least 4 models by 2025, and then we're obviously setting different volume targets for the different models. And we have looked at the market. The vehicles we're going to be introducing is all going to be what I would call either segment busters or creating new segments. We're not here to just deliver another Me Too electric vehicle as we move forward. We have some real radical ideas up our sleeve. I've teased and talked a little bit about a potential pickup truck. If we do one, it'll be radically different. It won't just be another normal pickup truck because there's enough of those, and there's a lot of great companies making great pickup trucks, so there had to be something different. And then, I've talked a little bit about, I was inspired a bit when I read about Apple making a car, and, I started sketching a car, and I sent an email to Tim Cook, never heard back early in the year. to say have an idea. Never showed the car, but it actually inspired me to really think out of the box, and I came up with a design which is really dramatically different, with something special things on this vehicle has never been done in the car industry. And I realized, if we want to do something like that, we have to do it with somebody outside the car industry, most likely. So, that's a project that sort of accelerated a bit inside Fisker. And if we come out with that, it'll just be a class of its own, something completely different. So we're looking at bringing out 3 or 4 vehicles before 2025 that I think, being in these unique spots, we will have a big possibility to potentially even pass that number of produced vehicles. I think we have a really unique business model where we can bring out vehicles fast. We don't have bureaucracy with 100 marketing and finance people trying to make decisions about which model to make and looking at historical data. I think you can forget about historical data. You got to look into the future. You got to reinvent the future, and you're going to have to take some risk, but you also need people who's knowledgeable and try to figure out what is it the consumer of the future wants. And that's where the game's going to be won. Who can truly figure this out? Because the consumer isn't what they were. Once we get out of COVID, the world's changed. Everybody's going to buy digital. We're a digital car company. I think people is going to demand different type of vehicles. They're going to be excited about seeing new concepts as never been seen before. I think you're going to see a huge revolution happening in the automotive industry, and we want to be in the forefront. We want to lead that. I think the fact that I designed the car, I'm the CEO, I can decide exactly what we want to do is a huge advantage, because we're not going to get these watered down design, this committed design, which we see all the time. And quite frankly, whether you make an EV or a gasoline car, if it's done by committee, it's going to end up being mediocre. So we don't have any committees like that at Fisker. We're making things pure and exciting. We are putting in new technology that probably a lot of other companies wouldn't dare putting in, and you will see that when we come out with it. So I feel we can take a really strong market share as we start delivering our vehicles, not only with the Ocean, but also our other future vehicles. So the competition, I'm really not worried about at all. I think we're well ahead of most of our other competitors out there.
And that is exactly what I meant when I said that he was going to satisfy the desires of us peasants, because again, Henrik Fisker is a world-class luxury car designer. I'm pretty sure there is a lot of bells and whistles up his sleeve, because he seems to be a lot more idealistic about the product of his creativity that he is able to provide to the world.
We have developed a very unique flexible lease model that, I think is beneficial both for us as the company as well as for the customer. And it's really something that traditional automakers really can't do, because, they have a dealer network that kind of prevents you from doing this, where the car company owns the vehicle. We own the vehicle, and, that's not the way it works in the traditional car industry. In fact, I haven't even seen any of our EV other EV startups doing this, and at least not for passenger vehicles. So what's unique about our lease is that you can lease our vehicle and give it back anytime. We have a very high max use mileage per year of 30,000 miles, which is very high. Normally it's sort of 10 to 12, 14,000 miles. And then we will introduce a rewards program where when you give back the vehicle, if you give it back in a really good A+ condition and with low mileage, we'll give you a whole bunch of rewards towards another vehicle. The other advantages I see for us long term is that, imagine 6 years down the line, we're going to have a 6-year-old Fisker Ocean, which we, by the way, can update with the latest technology over there, and we can lease it out to maybe a college student or a person getting their first job for a reasonable price. And that person can choose between our vehicle, which will have full warranty, been serviced and maintained by us, the OEM, versus a used car, which maybe had 5 owners. Nobody knows how they were serviced. There's no more warranty on it. So we're going to have a fleet of vehicles that's going to be super attractive later in down the line, and it's going to give us much more revenue because we are still owning these vehicles. And I think that's the long-term interesting part of our business model. If you sell a car to somebody and that person buys an upgrade. Then essentially they have bought that upgrade and put it into their car. So you sold that upgrade, let's say for $1,000. When that person then sells this car to another person, well, that upgrade is still in there because they paid for it and it's their car. When you think about our lease model, if you lease a car from us and you're the first one, and a few months later, you really want this upgrade, so now you're buying that $1,000 over-the-air upgrade. When you give back that car to us, we can reset that car to zero, and now we lease it out to another person. That person buys the same upgrade for $1,000. That person gives it back, we reset it, we sell it again for $1,000. We can maybe do that 8 times over a life, maybe 10 times of the car. So that mobility revenue have never been realized before in the automotive industry. And that's one of, I think, the huge upsides, combining our unique flexible lease model where we own the asset with a reoccurrent mobility revenue where you sell the same thing. You only spend one-time money on developing, but you're selling it multiple times.
Well, it does seem like a very unusual and creative business model, and it looks like they have already thought it through. So you and I, all we have to do is just wait until it makes us filthy rich. I really hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. Personally, I am now even more bullish on Fisker. Thank you for subscribing, and see you in the next video.